Hi everybody, good morning. Today I have a tutorial for you, which is kind of a new take on an old type of project, a blast from the past, if you will. We're going to be making this beautiful envelope album, and I'm going to share with you exactly how to do it and how to put it all together and how to use one basic design to make 5 different pages. So stay tuned and I'll be back and we'll get into the walkthrough and the tutorial. Hi everybody, this is Michelle with Creative Operation and Country Craft Creations. Welcome back to my channel. I have a design team project today, and if I can get this video filmed without messing it up anymore, then we're gonna get it done today. I can't even tell you how many takes this has taken to do. So yeah, let's get started. So this is kind of an old idea that I have updated a little bit, and I think it's going to be really fun. It combines like a policy envelope album with like my configuration style of doing things, where I do strategic cuts and folds, and then I can take one basic design and fold it and do it in a different way and make different pages. So that's kind of where we're at. We're kind of mashing those two together. This project came about because I have a slimline scoreboard from We Are Memory Keepers that is like super uber hard to find, and I finally found one and I was playing with it. It makes slimline cards and envelopes in 2 different sizes, and I was kind of playing with the envelopes and I like the curve of it and all that stuff. And then I came up with this idea, but then, you know, because not everybody can get it, because it is like super hard to find. I mean, even like my local craft store, which is huge, they've had it on order and can't seem to get it in. So I found mine on Amazon. Good luck if you want to try and find it. But because it's so hard to find, I am not using it for this tutorial. So I used it when I was goofing around with the idea, but we're going to use a plain old, regular old scoreboard to make this today. So don't worry. But I just wanted to let you know that's kind of where it came from. So anyway, that all being said, we're going to make this really cute album. It measures completely 10 1/4 by 4 with a 2-inch spine, and it has lots of pockets. And then because Heartfelt Creations comes with lots of tags, and it also has pages that have like the 4 by 6 papers, I utilized a lot of that into making this album. So I was trying to kind of use what paper, you know, was telling me to make. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So let's go through a walkthrough of what we're going to make, and then we're going to go ahead and do a tutorial. So again, this album completely measures 10 1/4 by 4 tall, and it has a 2-inch spine. It has 5 pages, which kind of include the covers. We are going to do a spine for this album with heavyweight chipboard, but we're not going to for the covers. The covers are actually the envelopes themselves. I used the heart lace from Country Craft Creations and the flowers to decorate the front. This is a cut apart here that I layered the flowers over. I thought that was really pretty. I did back it with some artisan cardstock. On this one I used black artisan cardstock. For the tutorial we're going to be using white. I used gold mirror paper from Country Craft Creations to do the matting, the double matting on the cover and the spine, and the back of it looks like so. It turned out gorgeous. I just think it's really pretty. Seam binding is also from Country Craft Creations. I used 3 different colors. I used black, red, and the light pink, and just really pretty. So let's open this up. We have a simple closure with a tie, and I just set an eyelet in the edge here and then tied a piece of seam binding through that. Then when you open it up, so I did fold the envelopes differently in different directions, and then that's how I created some different things. So this one here is a pocket. Some of the cut aparts, the heart lace, some twine, and then the little glitter button that I had from my design team package. And then I had fussy cut out this rose because I don't have the dies for this collection. So I just fussy cut that out and layered that there, and it was it turned out really beautiful. I also did ink everything with my vintage photo, which is my go-to color for Tim Holtz ink. And then this is where I was able to utilize the cut aparts, and then the 6x6 papers. I just scored them at 3, folded them over, created a tag shape, and then was able to utilize those as a double-sided tag, and it gave it a little more thickness too, so I didn't have to back those with cardstock. So I just created some beautiful tags to go in there so you can put pictures and journaling and everything else. Second envelope here, flap here, and I just put one of the cut aparts here as a flap, and then you could put a picture under here. This is a piece that I fussy cut out, and you can tuck a picture behind, so it turned out really pretty. The glitter hearts here for a little bit of an accent there. Turn it here, here's a flap here, again another cut apart that I used as a decorative piece. And then when you open it up, there's another pocket here, and I just put the cut aparts in there, so that worked out really nice. Here I have one of the envelopes that I didn't close the top flap on to create a nice long pocket. So in here we have the 2 pockets. We have one here, and then we have one here. So you have your long tag here that I did back on artisan cardstock. And then I decorated with a die cut, one of the lace hearts from the trim, and then one of the glitter hearts. And then in the pocket, again, cut aparts and tags. So, and those just tuck right in there. So there are lots of rooms for photo. I didn't count how many tags and stuff I made. I probably should have done that. This back page of this this particular envelope, I just left plain because the paper was just so beautiful, and I did cut it. I wanted that heart with the love in it. And then I added a photo mat with some of the trim here. On this one here, the flap goes like this, photo mat opportunity down here, another little fussy cut piece, and then one of the cut apart pieces that I fussy cut out, and then I use the hearts on the corners of that. Then you turn this, there's a pocket back here, and then you have more tags and more photo mats that you could put in there. All right, so you can see kind of what I kind of did some different things. Another fussy cut flower, more of the little cut apart pieces, and then another one of the hearts. And then back here, the back page again is the kind of the envelope without the flap folded, another full size tag in there, and then a photo mat on here and fussy cut pieces where you could tuck the photo underneath. And then the back page again like that. So just chock full of places to put things, really cute. So let's get started with the tutorial. For the tutorial, we're going to be using Love is in the Air. And this is a Country Craft Creations exclusive paper collection that I had some leftovers from a couple different projects that I have done already with this paper. And we've also used this in retreats and stuff. So I used this, since it is Valentine's Day, we had to do that, right? So we're going to be using this today for the tutorial. Now let's get started with the spine piece. And I've been trying to do this tutorial. Yeah, this is like my 3rd take. So we're going to go ahead and try this one more time and see if we can get this done. So for the spine, I'm using the spine just like I would have done if I was to make a full album cover, but we're going to use the envelopes as the covers. We're not going to do like a front and back with heavyweight chipboard. So the only piece of heavyweight chipboard you really need is this piece that's 2x4. And then you need a piece of cardstock that's 4x6 to cover it. And you can see I've already put it on there. And it has an inch border all the way around. And this is different than the usual spine where it has 1.5 inches. We're only going to do 1 inch, and it'll make sense in just a second, but just bear with me on this. But we're going to cover this as if it was a spine piece, okay? So you put the chipboard in here. I used my inch spacers that I got from Country Craft Creations to make sure that I got it perfectly centered, and then turn it over, and then I used my bone folder, and then I just go around the edges, okay, and make sure that that's nice and pressed down, okay? I do have a lay flat cover tutorial that I'll link below if you want to do the full thing, but we're going to kind of modify it just a little bit. So then when I turn it over, I kind of use my bone folder and I push that up against the edge of my heavyweight cardstock and then kind of mold that around it and then push it out. Okay, and I'll do that on both ends. So I'm just pushing that in and I'm just kind of holding it in and I'm kind of folding it out, okay? So like that. And then I'm going to grab my glue and hopefully, because, you know, I never remember to like make sure my glue's working before my tutorials. That's kind of my MO. Oh, but it is. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to put some glue here. And then I'm going to go kind of around the edge here just a little bit. I'm going to fold that down and give that a good burnish. Okay. Make sure that's nice and pressed down. Do that on both ends, okay? So this is the first thing we'll take care of. Just get this spine piece taken care of. And again, I'm going to just press it down and make sure it's nice and burnished. Okay, and then the last thing that I like to do is turn it back over and then go over the edges again. Okay, so I'm just going to burnish those down and then I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fold them over. Okay, then our spine piece is pretty much done. The next thing I want to do is just grab my scissors and I'm going to just miter those a little bit. So I'm just going to go and just take off a little bit. Okay, so just a little angle. You don't have to do too much. It is already, or it's already kind of mitered down a little bit, because when you push those in, it kind of folds the paper. You can kind of see there's a little teeny tiny angle here where the paper, you know, got molded around the chipboard here, so it kind of pulls it in a little bit. So it is already a little bit mitered. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'm just going to let that sit for a second. The next thing you're going to want is 3 pieces that are going to be hinges. So we're going to attach the front and back covers with this, and then we will need 3 hinges for the inside pages. And I'm doing these a little bit different than I normally do them because we're making envelopes and we're going to have to incorporate them. So these pieces, you'll need 3 that are 1 inch by 3 7/8, and you're going to put it in your scoreboard at the 1 inch, score it at half, and then fold it in half. And that is all you're going to need to do. Okay, so 3 of those at 1 inch by 3 7/8, and then score them on the 1 inch at half, fold them, done. Okay, let's put those off to the side for just a sec, and then let's grab our pages. Now we're going to score our pages. We're going to score 2 of them one way and 3 of them another way. Okay, let me start with the 3 because those are the easiest ones to do. I've already went ahead and created 2 of these, but we're going to do 1 more. So you need 3 total of what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, all of the cardstock pieces are the same as far as measurements, so they're all 11.5 by 9. All right, 11.5 by 9, and you're going to score them. We're going to start on these. Let's actually start this way because this will make more sense in a minute when we get to the other pages. Okay, so start with your 9 at the top of the board. We're going to score at 2.5 and 6.5. Okay, 2.5 and 6.5, and then turn it to the 11.5 and score at 1 1/4 and 10 1/4. All right, do 3 of those like that. So again, on the 9, score at 2.5 and 6.5. Then at the 11.5, score at 1 1/4 and 10 1/4. Okay, and when you do that, then what you're going to do is you're going to cut these corners out, and I cut them so that I cut the scores completely out. So right on the outer edge of those scores, I'm going to cut straight up. Don't miter anything. And I'm trying to see, light's shining. I'm just cutting those scores completely out. All right. So do that to all 4 corners. And just cut all 4 corners out. And again, you'll do this 3 times. So we need 3 of these pieces just like this. All right. And then these are going to get folded a little bit differently. Each one is going to get folded a little bit differently to create the different pages and the different flips that we're going to use in our book. Okay. So we'll cut that up right outside the score. And then cut those out and be done. All right, so that's that. This one here, for some reason, does not look straight to me. I had to cut that score out a little bit better than that. Okay. Like so, okay? So 3 of those, and then what I did was I took my corner rounder, and you can use your corner rounder of choice. This one happens to be a 1-inch corner rounder that I've had in my stash for a really long time. And I'm just going to go around and round all my corners. So I'm using the 1-inch. You can use whatever one you want. Does not matter, but I'm going to do every single one of those. Okay? And this one here, there we go. That's a little better. All right, so we're going to get rid of that. So we have 3 of those. All right, so they should have scores all the way around. Okay, 3 of those. And then we're going to grab 2 more pieces of paper, and this is where it's going to get a little bit different. So on these, you're going to have scores just on the 3 sides. Okay, so let me show you how I did that. Okay, so we're just not going to score all the way down right here and leave this part straight, because that is going to end up being page 3 and our back page / cover. Okay, and we don't want like a fold there. It's not the end of the world if you forget and put a score there, because you're going to cover it with pattern paper anyway, so that'll stiffen up that score. But I'm going to show you how I did it so that there is no score. Okay, so we're going to start with our 9 at the top, just like we did before. We're going to score at 2.5 all the way down and at 6.5 all the way down. Then we're going to turn it to the 11.5 at the top, score at 1 1/4 all the way down, and then over here, this is where it's different because we don't want the score in the middle, so we're going to score at 10 1/4 just to that score line there. Okay, and then we're going to flip this completely around and then go to the 1 1/4 to that score line. Okay, so what that'll do is give you a score here and here, but not in the middle. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So again, start at the 9, score at 2.5, score at 6.5, turn it to the 11.5, score at 1 1/4 all the way down, and then over here, this is where we're going to do it different. 10 1/4 just to that score line, and then flip it completely around. Okay, so now you should have that one little piece of score here, no score here, score at 1 1/4 just to that score line. And then we're going to just do the same thing. We're going to cut out those scores straight up. And again, you know, it's not the end of the world if you forget and you score completely through, okay? We're going to cover it with pattern paper. It will stiffen it up, and especially if you're using, you know, artisan cardstock, as long as you don't fold that score, you know, you should be good to go. So if you forget, it's, like I said, not the end of the world. Okay, so cut that out. So cut out all 4 corners again, just like you did. Okay. so. That little piece out, and then again we're going to round our corners, okay, all of them with your corner rounder of choice. On this particular album I am not going to ink any of the papers because of the white. I want to keep it a little more on the clean side, so we're not going to do that. But again, that's personal preference. If you want to ink, you go right ahead. You could use pink, you could use blue, you could do all kinds of stuff, but I'm going to choose not to do anything. So let's get rid of those. Let's get rid of my scoreboard because I'm pretty much done with that now. And we have our pieces ready to go. Okay, so let's start with our cover. So our cover again is going to be flat on one side, and then, excuse me, we're going to turn it and you're going to have a pocket on the inside. So I'm going to put that there for just a second, and then we're going to grab our piece that has all 4 of the scores here, okay? And we're going to fold and burnish all 4 of our scores. Okay, like so. Okay. So basically what we're going to end up doing is we're going to fold the top part in, we're going to fold the bottom part up, and then this is going to hold the pocket together, okay? That's how this is going to go. So let's go back. Let's make sure that this is all covered. Now the other thing too is that because of the way that we're putting this in the book, I'm not going to cover these pieces quite yet, okay? So we're going to kind of leave those till the end because this is where we're going to be attaching our hinges and stuff, okay? So let's take the pieces that we need to cover completely first. So I cut out my papers already. We're going to go ahead and put those down. I'm just using my art glitter glue. I got everything prepared. I'm trying to hopefully make sure this goes quickly for you. All right, we're just going to cover that like so. And then we'll cover the top here. Like so. There we go. Where is my, there it is. Found it. I found it. All right. And then what we're going to do is, because we want to keep this pocket here, we're just going to use this, we're going to glue it completely down, okay? And that's going to close off everything. So I'm just going to literally just put the glue there. But again, I'm not going to cover this with pattern paper yet because we have to add our hinges. All right. And then we have one here. And we'll cover that. And that's going to make our first page. So this will be the cover, and this will be the first inside page. That's going to attach to our spine. Now, this is why you want your spine not to be 1.5 inches. These are only 1.25 inches, so that's why I did only 1-inch wings. That's going to lay right on top of there. So I just, you know, obviously realized that I forgot to cover the inside of my spine. So you are going to need a piece of cardstock that is 3 7/8 inch tall, I can't talk, by 3/4 inch wide. And I put score tape on here because score tape is like absolutely the best thing to do with this. And we're going to lay that over the top. So double-sided tape here. And I'm just going to center this on top. And you see we are going to have to trim it a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to grab this and put that down. Cover that. All right. So you do need to cover that. Very important. Don't want my chipboard showing. I hate it when my chipboard shows. So then I'm just going to kind of trim this a little bit. All right, don't worry. That's going to get covered up. All right. There we go. Trim that up. Okay, now we have a proper spine. All right, so this is going to go here. And then we're going to layer pattern paper over the top of that. And I know it looks like a lot of layers, but I did the same thing here and you cannot tell. So we have our scoreboard. I did put some score tape on here. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge because I don't want it to get, you know, stuck too close to where that is. All right. Then I'm going to lay this down right on top here, and I'm going to try and use I'm actually going to turn it around so I can see it better. I'm going to confuse the heck out of you is what I'm going to do. All right. All right. So I grabbed my scoreboard. I have my spine piece. We've covered it with the cardstock on the inside, so it's all covered. This is the outside. I added my score tape, and I don't want to go too close to the fold there because I don't want it to stick too close and then risk having it, you know, get stuck too close and rip. Okay, so I'm going to take my scoreboard off. I'm lining this up. I want to get that edge of the score line here with this mark, and then I'm going to lay this down, give it about 1/8 of an inch so it has a little bit more leeway here, and try and get that nice and straight. Okay, stick that down. All right, like so. Okay, so now we have this. Now remember, we're going to have tags in here. We're going to put pattern paper over here. It's going to be perfect. Okay, so that's the first cover, first envelope done right there. Okay, so then let's put this down for just a sec, and let's go ahead and just do the last page, just so that we can show you, I can show you how to do the covers. Okay, so this is going to be the piece that does not have a score here, and this is going to be the last page of the book. And let me show you the last page of the book. So the outside is the full length of the envelope, and then the inside will just have this pocket, so it's completely covered on the front. Okay, so we're going to fold and burnish our scores. This part here is going to fold over like so. Okay, and this is going, that's it. That's all you're going to be doing. So we're going to glue this envelope shut. So I'm going to put a little bead of glue here, and I'm going to put a little bead of glue here, and we're going to just close that up like so. And then we're going to close the end. And remember that one flap is not going to fold. Okay, so we have our back cover, which will look like that. Then we're going to grab, let's see, the inside of that back cover shall be this piece. Oops, I did that wrong. Oh my gosh, Michelle. Yep. I should have done this tutorial last night, because you know what? Last night I actually was like all over this, and then I didn't sleep well. So I'm just going to peel that up. It's not going to matter because it's going to go back down anyway and get covered. So it's going to be okay. We're going to save this. All right. So, see? There we go. So we're going to put that down, and then we're going to glue it down. I have this all laid out too, and I was like talking to myself while I was making it, and I was saying don't do this and don't do that, and make sure to tell them this, and then, you know, don't get any sleep, and then this is what you get. So yeah. All right. Best laid plans, right? Okay, So we're going to do that. Straighten that up a little bit. And now you're going to glue this down because this is going to go down over top of that. Okay. Take a simple concept and make it difficult. That's my job. All right, that's going to get covered with pattern paper here in a sec, so don't worry about that. All right. So, inside of the back cover, and that is going to go right here. Okay, so again, let's grab our scoreboard. And we'll lay that down there. And I'm going to do it upside down just so I can see it better. I'm going to take off my tape. And I'm going to line that up with one of my score marks here so I can kind of make sure I get everything straight. About 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Okay, that gives it just a little bit extra room to move. Okay, like that. All right, so now that those are on, we can go ahead and cover those with pattern paper, and then I'll show you what this is going to look like. Okay, so it's just going to go like that, and it's easy peasy, right? Simple, simple. And this is why you kind of wait to do those, because the hinges need to be covered up. So I just cut a piece of pattern paper. These are 3 7/8 by 1 1/8. Okay, so there's that one. And then the one for the inside front cover is right here. Okay, so we can go ahead and put that on the other piece as well. And then the inside will be done here. So let's do that. So you can see how those get covered up very nicely. Don't you just love the colors in this paper collection? They are so bright and so pretty. So here's the other piece. So I did try to match those so that it kind of is cohesive here. Let's put some glue on that. So again, these are 3 7/8 by 1 1/8, and those just cover that little flap just perfect. Okay, so there's the inside, okay, and there's our first pocket there. And then the back cover, there's going to be a piece that you're going to need here. And on that one, I went ahead and cut a piece that was 2 inches by 3 7/8, and then that way you can kind of tuck into the pocket a little bit. The fun part about this, let me get this out of the way. The fun part about this particular project was that I was also able to use scraps really, really well and cover this up. So I'm going to just poke that in. Used up a lot of scraps, so that was good. Put a little glue there. Okay, and then the big tag will go into that big pocket, and we'll have a photo mat here too. But anyway, that is the inside of the cover. And so you can see this sticks out. We're going to have some paper back here, here, and it's going to work out just perfect. Okay, so cover's done. So let's talk about the inside of the pages. So I'm going to put this off to the side. Let's look at the next page. So in our Heartfelt Creations, this one is going to have the flap here, and then on the back we'll have a flap with a pocket. All right, so we need one that's going to fold on all 4 sides, and we're going to fold and burnish all of our pieces, okay? Now, all of them except for one will fold to one side, okay? So if you look at this, we're going to have the flap on the back. This will be the pocket, and then this one's going to fold like so. Okay? And then that flap will fold over. Now, if you look at the front of it, when you turn it, that's where that flap's going to be, okay? So this one will fold back this way. Okay, does that make sense? I hope it does. So you're going to have an envelope. Basically, everything except for this one right-sided flap is going to fold to the other direction. This one's going to fold here. Okay, so let's start with this side. Let's find my papers here that I cut for this. And we're going to glue this down here. Okay, these envelopes, when you fold them all together, the size measures 4 by 9, okay, 4 by 9. So I cut my papers an 1/8 inch smaller, so they're 3 7/8 by 8 7/8. Then I cut 2 little papers here for the flap. And I'm going to cover those real quick on this front side. And I really do love how bright these papers are. I just think they're so pretty. Okay, and then we have our little piece for the back side. So we cover both sides. Okay. I'll show you my example while I'm making this one here. Okay. So I'm going to lay that down. Okay, and then what I did was I cut a card, and this piece of cardstock measures 4.5 by 3 1/4. I covered it completely on the front, and then on the back, I covered it with a piece that's 3 5/8 by 3 1/8. Okay, and I left a little gap here because that's where we're going to attach it, like so. So I'm going to put glue there, and then I'm just going to center that and attach it. And what that's going to do is create our really pretty little flap. So again, the white cardstock is 4.5 by 3 1/4. The pattern paper here is 4 3/8 by 3 1/8. And then the back piece here, I cut a piece that's 3 5/8 by 3 1/8. Okay, so then I'm just going to add my glue to this white part here. And then I'm going to center this, I'm going to eyeball it, and I'm going to put it right to the edge of that flap, like so. And then that's going to give it a little flap, and then also this really pretty little white 1/8 inch border for another photo opportunity here. Okay, so then when we turn that page, like so, okay, so we're going to turn that page, we're going to have a flap here, and then that's going to create a pocket back under here. So let's grab the papers for that. And we're going to start from the top. I got these laid out exactly how I want them. Okay. So we're going to put the top flap paper on first. And I usually don't do all my pattern papers, you know, during my tutorials. But with this one, you kind of have to because of the nature of this book. All right, so there's the outside of that flap, and then my plan is to do that. So we'll do that really super fast. And oops, lay that pattern paper down there. And then just to keep things simple, cut the same piece of paper for here because that's going to tuck up and create a pocket, right? So I'm just going to put that down there. And again, 8 7/8 by 2 3/8, which again is really super nice to use scraps with this project. It worked really well. And then I used a lot of the scraps to go ahead and create tags and things. So that worked out great. Got a little glue there. Okay, this one's going to go here. It's going to glue up and create a pocket. So we're gonna do that. Okay, so we have that here. Okay, so then let's go ahead and we need to close this pocket. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue here and close that up on that side. Okay. And then on this side here, we're going to completely glue this to this pocket here, okay? Just like that. I left that part open. You could glue it down completely if you want. Doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue there and close that piece right there. Okay. Now, before you put pattern paper on here, we have to add our hinge. So this is where we're going to grab one of our little hinges, okay? And you're going to glue that right there. Now, what I ended up doing was I wanted to make sure that I had a little bit of space. So not quite like 1/8 of an inch, or maybe 1/8 of an inch, that I'm just going to glue that so that there's a little bit of space. I'm not going to glue it completely flush with the fold because I want to make sure that the pages swing nicely. So I'm going to open that up just so that it's flat and easier to see. I'm going to put a little bit of glue here. All right, and then I'm going to glue that to this edge right here. So I'm going to just lay that down. Just a little bit of space in between that edge. Okay, so there's just a little bit of a gap. I'm going to glue that down. It's going to go right on top of that pocket. Now I can take my pattern paper and cover that up, and that will cover up that hinge. Okay. So I'm going to put my glue on this little piece. And again, this is 1 1/8 wide by 3 7/8. Got that a little too high. Try that. There we go. Like so. Okay, so now I have my little pocket. Now to do this little flap here, we're going to do the same thing. So I did on this one, this piece here is 4 1/2 by 3, and the pattern paper is 4 3/8 by 2 7/8. And then I used one of the little cut apart pieces and I glued that on top of that piece of pattern paper. And then when you raise that flap, you're going to want a piece up at the top, and I cut that at 7/8 inch by 4 3/8. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to center it right to that edge right there. So if you want to grab your centering ruler, you can do that. And we're just going to put our glue on there. You can make little tick marks if you want to line it up, or you can do that. It should line up at about 2 1/4 on each side. Okay. I'm just going to put my glue here. I'm going to line that up. I'm eyeballing a little bit, but I'm going to just line that up right there in the center. There we go. And press that down. Now, if you want, you could lay that down and then measure this piece and then cover that later, but I wanted to go ahead and get it done for the project. Okay, so there's page number 2, and we have a nice little pocket here for photo. Isn't that cute? So that's page number 2. So now let's work on page number 3. We're going to put this to the side and we'll add that to the book in a minute. So on this one here, we're going to use a piece that's not folded on all 4 sides, so we don't have that score here. Okay, so we're going to have a big pocket here and a pocket here. And again, we're going to do it kind of the same way we just did. Okay, so what we're going to do is flip this over. So the top part will go in first. All right. The bottom part will go up. All right, then this piece will fold. Okay, all right. All right, so we're gonna take care of that here. Let's grab our pieces. So, top part that folds in, got our pieces, and again, these are all the same. As far as the flaps go, they're 2 3/8 by 8 7/8. And you do have to really, you know, cover the pockets before you glue everything down. Okay, oop, getting glue on my fingers and it's not working. So then we have these beautiful balloons. I didn't want to put those up the top because I wanted to see them with the tags in there. You can't see the little heart balloons. So, okay, there we go. Okay, then you guessed it, we're going to put this piece down and that's going to glue together. Okay, and then we need to glue this side of the pocket, but you can't glue it all the way down because then otherwise you can't get the tag inside. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little dab of glue here and a little dab of glue here. That will just close that side there so that you can keep the continuity of the whole entire envelope. This piece will glue here, and that will close the other side of that pocket. Okay, just like so. Then you have a little piece that we're going to glue to the edge there. And, ooh, I think I might do it that way. Yeah, I like the pink. Nice contrast with the white and the blue. And it says love you at the top, so like what's better than that, right? There we go. Okay. And then this piece again, I cut it 2 inches and we're just going to tuck that in there. And then that will be where the large tag goes. Get that set down. Okay. All right, so that's the front of page 3. Then we're going to turn it over, and this back page just has a photo mat on it, so it's one big piece of paper, but we have to add our hinge first because we have to be able to add it to the book. So again, we're going to grab one of our hinges and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to glue that almost to the score, but not quite. Spit glue all over everything. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue here and set that down almost to the edge, like so. Turn that over, and then grab my piece of paper that's going to go on the back side like that. All right, and that piece, with it being all the way open, this pattern paper will be 10 1/8 by 3 7/8. All right. So then here's this. We're going to do this. And I'll lay this piece down. That'll cover up our hinge. And voila. Okay. So that's the back of the page, and then we're just going to add a photo mat, and I'll show you that at the end. Okay, so that's the back of that page, and then we have our final page that we need to create. So this one has a flap here, and then it has pockets back here. So we're going to grab the last envelope piece that we have. It's scored on all 4 sides. So you can see on one side, it's going to go like so on this side. All right, and the rest are going to fold to the other side. So we're gonna go ahead and just do that real quick, all the way around. Get our flaps going in the correct direction. Now you can see there's lots of different things you can do with this. These are just some ideas. I had to stop myself because I was having like all kinds of ideas. So let's do this. We've got our flap here and our page. So our page will be like this, and then I've got my two flaps that go like that. So pattern paper here. Like so. Okay. Then when you open it up, you'll need a piece of pattern paper here. I remember making like policy envelope books and stuff way back in the day, but I never did one like as deconstructed and, you know, redone as this one. So this is kind of fun, being able to do it. I love doing configuration type books where you can take basically one score and create like all the different options, you know, for it. I just think that's really awesome. All right, so that is that page there. Okay, so right here, and then I do have a decorative piece that I'm going to put on here, but we'll do that later. Okay, so then you turn the page, so we'll turn the page, and then this is where we're going to have our pocket, and then the two sides that help create the pocket. Okay, so on this one here, we're going to get our pattern papers. So we will have our pink for inside here. And this piece doesn't actually go to the bottom of the pocket completely. And that's, you know, another really good, fun thing about this Scrapbooster project. I mean, you don't have to have this one completely go all the way to the bottom because it's going to get covered up by this bottom pocket anyway when it folds up, right? Then we're going to use our little mailboxes again. All right, so that's done. So then we'll fold this guy in and we'll go ahead and we're just going to glue to here. I did create the pocket so it was a little bit wider here. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to this section. Okay, close that down. And then I will do the same over here. Okay, and then you guessed it, we have to add another hinge. Okay, now this hinge is going to be a little bit different because we're going to do it so that it covers the previous hinge. So I am actually going to do it so that this is our last page. It's going to glue kind of the opposite direction. Okay, so it won't be like this. It's going to be like this. It will make sense in just a minute. If you have followed my videos, you know that I do this so that the tabs don't show on either side. So we have a nice finished product. So again, I'm just going to put the glue and I'm going to center that almost to the score. Okay, like so. All right, so we're on the back again. And then we have our pieces that will cover here. And then basically we're done. We need to put it in the actual spine of the book. And then what I'll do is I'll go and finish the decorating, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what this one looks like. And I think you're going to love it. I know I do. I do. All right, so now we'll cover that hinge up with our pattern paper, like so. All right, and we have our last page. All right, so now what we're going to do is put these into our book. So let's grab, here is our book. So we've got the inside, the outside's not covered yet. All right, we're gonna fold this flat. We've got our pages in the order we want them. Get that out of the way for a second. We're gonna take our first page, and what we're gonna do is we're going to go a 1/2 inch in and glue that down. And that's basically it. And they're gonna be the same height as, you know, all the envelopes are the same height. So it's really easy to do. So I'm going to grab my 1/2 inch spacer. That's a small one that I did get from Country Craft Creations as well. And then I'm going to put glue on this tab, and then we're just going to glue that down. I mean, that's just as easy as it gets. So I'm going to put glue on my hinge. I'm going to hold all my flaps down too. And I'm going to put this right at the edge of my chipboard. Nice and straight. And then I'm just going to lay that down. Nice and straight. And then if you need to, you can hold that book up. Make sure that it's nice and straight top to bottom. Okay. And glue that down. And then be careful when you open it up, and then just go ahead and press that down. So now you've got your page in your book. Then you're done with the spacers. Once you get the first one in, you don't need the next one, because this is just going to butt right up against that one. All right. So again, put the glue on. I'm going to line that up, and then make sure the envelopes are top to bottom straight. Just mash that up right against that 1/2 inch piece that we just glued down. All right. Press, and you should be good to go. Now this one here will go right over top of that last one. That's why we did it the opposite direction. Okay. So we'll put glue. I just like it because it gives like more of a finished look. Now just make sure when you do this, you got to be just a little bit away from the fold of the previous one, the score of the previous hinge. You don't want it in the hinge, because then that way you won't be able to turn that. Okay. And that just lays right over top. Okay. And then you turn your page, and look at that nice finished edge you have there. Just like the finished edge you have to start. So it's just beautiful. All right, so 1/2 inch there. All right, so I'm gonna finish decorating, but right now what we've got is our pocket here. We've got our flap here. We have our flap with our pocket here. Pocket and a pocket here. Nice big photo mat page. A flap with a photo mat page. Turn this over, another pocket photo mat page here. Okay, so I'm going to finish the decoration, and then I will be back and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, I'm back, and I have finished decorating my Love is in the Air book. I've already showed you this one. We did a walkthrough, but basically I just wanted to kind of compare the two. So they're basically the same. I'm going to put this off to the side, get this in frame. So I decorated the cover with one of the cut aparts that I backed on some polka dotted teal paper that I had in my stash, and then some white artisan cardstock, and then I put it up on foam tape. And then these flowers were leftovers from previous design team packages that I thought matched the paper with the blue and the red. So I went ahead and did that. And then I added some bling from my stash because I love my bling. So I wanted to add a little pop of color to that. So that's how I decorated the front. I did add an eyelet and some seam binding. And the seam binding here, I cut them at about anywhere from like 24 to like 26 inches. And then I just looped them through that eyelet, and then one on the front, one on the back, and then just tied it in the front. And that makes the really nice cover. On the spine here, I'll open this up so you can see the whole thing. On the spine here, I have this pretty plaid, and then I have this other beautiful lady on the back of this. I did use some red shimmer paper that I had from Country Craft Creations in my stash. And I do want to mention that the seam binding here is hand dyed by our very own Sally from Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations. And I did get this when I was in Utah at the store. So it is not available online, unfortunately, but it is in, or it was at least in the shop back in October when I got it. So I thought that this teal color and this pink color that she did matched absolutely perfectly. So that's what I use. So Sally, thank you very much. This is what this looks like on the top. It's really fluffy. There's lots of ribbons and there's lots of picture opportunities. So I just think it looks like a real fun interactive book. So when you open this up, in the pocket here, I'll take these out so you can see. So here is our pocket that we created, and then I used the cut-aparts and I backed them on white cardstock. This is a piece of pattern paper that was left over that I just created a photo mat. I created 2 tags that were backed on cardstock, and then I did 2 that were pattern paper pieces that mimic what I did in the first book. So I just kind of loaded this all up. And when you get pictures on the backs of these and everything, it's going to look so cool. So here I kind of left this as is. You can put a picture behind here, but I just thought that was pretty in and of itself. And then the paper, you know, does have a lot of pattern to it. So I kind of left some of it more on the blank side, on the inside. But we talked about how I used one of the cut-aparts here on this flap. And then in here, I have 2 pieces of pattern paper that I just backed on cardstock and then put in there. And then I thought the other fun thing too is that you could put a letter in here. You could put tickets if you went somewhere fancy for Valentine's Day. That would be a nice little pocket to tuck those kinds of things in. Here is another pocket here. I put a piece of the pattern paper backed on cardstock. I created 2 tags backed on cardstock, and then here's another one of the cut-aparts backed on cardstock. So that all fits in this pretty little pocket here. And then we have the full-size tag that I created and put in here. Now these tags measure, let me double check because I don't think I told you about these tags. They are 3 3/4 by 8. So they fit perfectly. I did use an eyelet and I put the seam binding through, and then that way it doesn't kind of get lost in the pocket. It kind of has a place to stick out so it doesn't go all the way down in. Turn this page, I added my photo mat and my pretty little lady. You can put a, you know, slide your picture underneath her. And then I tried to keep the word love out so you could see that. On this page, I added this little cut apart as a flap kind of piece. You open it up, and then I added this little cut out that it's a little letter that I cut out of the pattern paper, and you could tuck a picture underneath that. When you turn this page, here's our other pocket. And in here, we have this pattern paper that I backed on cardstock, another tag, used just pattern paper, doubled it on itself, and, you know, made a pretty little tag. So that's what goes in this pocket. And then our last page, which is our back cover, we have our photo mat, another little cut apart here with some of that teal paper, and then we have another large tag, and it's a perfect place for photos and for journaling, and it tucks right in there. So that is my album. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I know it was a little convoluted. I'm going to be doing a lot of editing on it, but it is a real fun book to make, and the possibilities are endless, and you can do, you know, as many pages as you want. You can do as many configurations as you want. You can just pick one and go with that and leave it, you know, in continuity throughout the book, whatever you want. But then when you fill it up with all of the things, it just looks really pretty. I just like how it turned out. So that's my tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and please visit Country Craft Creations at countrycraftcreations.com. Get Heartfelt Creations Friendship Rose and Love is in the Air, and there are other Cupid's Heart is out now. I believe that's what it's called. And it is a really cute paper collection too. I just didn't have it. So she has several different Valentine's Day papers that you can choose from to create this book. So have fun with your projects, and I can't wait to see if you're on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations. Please share your pictures if you do this album. If you're not on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations on Facebook, please check it out at countrycraftcreations.com, and you can see the link there and answer a couple questions and then be part of the group. And then you can get advised of all the tutorials from all of us designers as we create them. So thanks for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.